Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by this really cool message I got from this lady. And it's going to be a little bit out of context, but she went through a tragedy, lost some loved ones. But anyway, I'm just going to read this. Here we go. You know that video you have posted that you felt guilty that you hoped your brother wasn't the survivor of the car crash. And truthfully, I wouldn't know who I'd wish survived because I've never been in your situation, and I pray I never will. But I've been the survivor where others wished I had died instead of her. Not exactly what she means by her, but someone died, obviously. I'm not going to lie, that's a hard thing to hear. I used to be angry about it for multiple reasons, but after a while, I was okay with it. After hearing your video, the people that loved both of us, they felt guilty feeling that. Therefore, I can't be upset or angry about it. So I thought that was cool because I didn't even see that coming. I didn't think of that perspective or that side of the situation. But I think it just shows you, if you're not scared to open up and talk about how you feel, you can connect with people and help them in ways that you didn't even anticipate. So I'm sorry for whatever you went through, and I'm glad my message was able to help in some way.
Life 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.
Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. Sam Josie's nowhere to be found. We were supposed to record Saturday, 8 a.m. We rescheduled everything. I reached out to Brandon. We got him to switch days, change the time. I rushed back from St. George. I got here. I still haven't seen Blue, really. Did it all for Sam. Sam's a no-show. I've had it. Give me a break. Life's 10% what happens to you, 90% what you're going to do about it. I'm here with Brandon Burke. I want to say good friend, but we don't know each other that well. Let's be honest. But when I was working, well, hold on. Let me back up. Let me slow down. Brandon, I'm going to kind of let you introduce yourself, talk about your story. But before we get to your story, I want to talk about the parable of the Mexican fisherman. I think that's what it's called. And I actually, a couple weeks ago when I went to St. George, I met up with an old buddy of mine, Mitch Fry, a.k.a. 10, and we were having lunch, and he actually brought it. I've never heard of the Mexican fisherman parable before, and he's the one that told me about it. I'm like, dang, that is so cool. I love that parable. And then, I kid you not, Brandon, probably I don't even know who told me, but then I found out about your story, and I don't want to give it away too quickly, but, and so in my mind, I'm like, man, that is a modern day current example of the Mexican fisherman parable. So anyway, before we get to Brandon Burke's story, I want to kind of set it up with the Mexican fisherman parable. And Brandon, you read it, right?
Yeah.
So if I mess up or if I leave out an important detail, feel free to jump in. Okay, so basically, here we go. Here's the parable. So this really rich, successful CEO guy from New York or whatever, crazy successful. He's been on edge. He's a little stressed out. He needs a vacation. So his buddies and the people he worked with are like, hey, take some time off, get away for a minute, go relax. He's like, all right. So he goes to this small little off the coast city in Mexico, small town. And so he gets there and he's just hanging out, trying to relax. And he meets this Mexican fisherman. And am I doing good so far?
So far, so good.
All right.
Sounds great.
And so he meets the fisherman, and he's caught a bunch of fish already, and it's pretty early in the day, bunch of tuna fish. And so the CEO guy is like, man, like, these are awesome fish. Like, super impressed. Like, how'd you catch them? The whole thing. And then the CEO guy's like, you're done fishing already? Like, you could fish longer and make a grip of money, man. Like, what are you gonna do with the rest of your day? And the Mexican fisherman is like, well, I fish for a little bit, but then I go home and I play with my kids and I have a siesta with my wife, and maybe I'll go fish again a little bit for fun, and then I'll roll into town and
Don't forget the nap.
oh yeah, the nap. Well, I said siesta.
I'm a big nap guy.
Yeah,
so
you gotta get the nap in.
He got the nap in.
And then he goes into town, he drinks wine and plays guitar with his buddies. And then he's like, that's kind of my day. And then the CEO guy is like, well, if you worked longer days, you could make this much money. And then you could build more boats. And then you could make more money. And then you could cut out the middleman. You could just go directly to the consumer. And then, like, you can go to LA. And then from LA, you can go to New York. And then you can sell it and be like, go public with it and make all this money. And then the Mexican fisherman's like, okay, that's cool. He's like, how long will that take? And the guy's like, I don't know, like 15, 20 years, maybe 25 years tops. And then the Mexican fisherman's like, and then what? And then he's like, well, then you can retire and you can go to a small fishing town in Mexico and hang out with your family and basically just explain the life that he already had.
Yeah.
And I think this parable is so powerful and so true and so cool. And I think a lot of people just don't understand what they have. They don't understand how good they have it. They don't even understand what they're chasing. Like, the thing you want, you might already have. And you just don't even know it. Like, and I just love it. I loved everything about this parable. And then I heard about your story. And kind of the dramatic shift that you made. So, Brandon, you want to kind of, I don't know, start from the beginning, tell us who you are, how you got to be so successful and all that stuff. You want to take it away from here?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for having me, Mason. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, man.
Really enjoyed your podcast, and it's really touched me. Your story is amazing, very touching and helpful in many ways to me and countless others. So thank you.
Well, wow, thanks, man.
And I got to tell you real quick. So I told my wife that you invited me to be on the podcast. You know, this was a few weeks ago, and you know, this is the person, of course, that knows me better than anybody in the world. And she says, her reply is, why did they want you? And it was funny because we kind of got into it a little bit. I was like, wait, what do you mean by that? You know, and but no, I'm honored to be here. I don't consider myself special in any way. I've never claimed to be the smartest guy in the room or said anything of the like.
Who would want to be the smartest guy?
That's true. I mean, who would? Too much pressure.
Yeah,
but
not for me.
I will outwork people. I've always, you know, I'll outwork you. But
So let me ask you this real quick. The classic question: would you rather have, I don't know, an employee or whatever, someone work harder or work smarter?
well, now, you know, where I'm at and having gotten a little bit of experience under my belt, it'd be nice to have a good combo of the two.
No,
right?
you got to pick one.
But got to pick one. I tell you, there's just something super endearing about and attractive to me about someone who just works their tail off.
I'm with you, and I feel like you can't really, you can only do so much to teach that one.
Yeah,
You can do more to like increase someone's IQ in a specific area,
Yeah.
but like work ethic, like
yeah, it's hard to teach. It's hard to acquire that later on in life. It's yeah, so I think I'd go with work harder.
there you go.
Love that.
Sorry to
both,
cut you off.
but-
Keep
no,
going.
yeah, you're good.
By the way, that's hilarious that your wife
Yeah.
said that. That is
Yeah.
too good.
But no, I'm grateful to be here. So yeah, I was born in Price, Utah, raised in a little ranch / coal town of 2,000 people in eastern Utah called Farron.
Dang.
My dad just long story real short, he was a scholarship athlete, played football for Utah State back in the day, but he's one of those guys that just picks up things really easily. So he picks up golf.
That's like my brother. My brother Sage is like,
they're kind of annoying sometimes,
good. Yeah,
but
it's like,
you know,
good.
yeah. But he picks up golf in college after his football career kind of ended, and just a natural. So anyway, he ends up becoming a golf pro, and moves. This is before I'm born, but moves our family, his young family. I'm the third of 4 kids, so I came later. I didn't know anything about this, didn't live through it, but he was the golf pro in Provo somewhere. I don't know the name of the course, and then moved our family to Richfield, Utah, where he was the golf pro there at the Richfield Golf Course. Well, then in the mid to late 1970s, the coal industry just took off, went crazy in Emery County and Carbon County, Utah. And so, you know, he was just making peanuts as a golf pro, running the golf course there in Richfield. He was sun up to sundown, just barely making it, and was able to, you know, look at this this coal boom in Emery County as an opportunity to, you know, maybe make a little bit more money, maybe not work quite as much, and moved our family to Farron. And I was born like the next year. So lived in the same house my whole life. My dad worked in the coal mines my whole life. My mom also worked in the coal mines as a secretary. And
I got the black lung pop. you ever seen Zoolander? You ever seen Zoolander?
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Sorry, I got like a movie problem.
So,
and by the way, your dad's a golf pro.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like, and I'm not much of a golfer, but I've golfed a few times. Could you imagine like putting and like, hey, like, I need this to go in to feed my family. Like that
insane.
would be intense.
That's pressure.
That's pressure right there. That's pretty cool. All right, keep going. Sorry.
So I grew up loving sports. I never took to golf that much. I wasn't good, so
golf's not a sport anyway. So you're good.
Good point. But played basketball, football, baseball growing up, and was able to play in high school those 3 sports. Was able to take a little scholarship to play basketball at the College of Eastern Utah in Price, right out of high school.
I did not know any of this.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I wasn't crazy talented. I mean, you've played basketball with me. I'm slow. I'm white.
Well, yeah, but how old are you now?
I'm 44.
Yeah, for 44, you look like Pistol Pete out there.
Come on, man. That's going too far, but thank you. But I worked hard. I put a lot of time into it. I really loved the sport of basketball, and had a decent junior and senior year in high school. And, you know, I remember I would go to the University of Utah basketball camp every summer, 9th through 12th grade.
I did too. I loved that.
Did you?
Camp. Yeah. It was more of a team camp when I was there, like a basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. So that was when Rick Majerus was there and his assistant coach, Tommy Connors. And I believe it was the summer before my senior year. I was having a great camp, and Connors comes up to me and says, "Look, I like you. I like you a lot. You're not good enough to play Division I, but you can play at any junior college."
I love Tommy Connors so much, man. He recruited me too.
And did he?
But for when he was the head coach at Westminster.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah,
cool.
Love Tommy.
But he kind of crushed me right there. You know, like in one
he'll do that
sentence, he like crushed my dreams of playing Division I basketball. But he threw a little carrot out there and said, "But you can play junior college." So I was grateful, honestly, to have gotten the opportunity. I played at CEU for a year, went on an LDS mission to Brazil for 2 years.
Hold on, can I tell a quick Tommy Connors story? Because I think it's great.
Okay.
And I think young athletes need to hear it. So I'm at the Westminster basketball camp. Tommy Connors, the head coach. And I think I'm a sophomore or freshman. He's interested in me. He wants me to. Anyway, we're doing this one-on-one competition, and one of the kids I'm playing against he's not very good. Like his dad sent him to the camp. He didn't want to be there, and I'm kind of like taking it easy on him a little bit. And Tommy Connors pulls me over. He goes, "Mason, there's 2 types of athletes. There's athletes that, when they're better than someone, they'll take it easy on them, feel bad for them. And then there's athletes that show no mercy and kick their ass. at Westminster, we only recruit players that want to kick ass. So go out there and kick his ass.
I love it. That's awesome.
I'm like,
that's awesome.
It was like, gave me chills on my arms.
so
dude.
cool.
So I kicked his ass.
There you go.
Anyway, keep going.
So came home from my mission, and there was a coaching change at CEU. So I was looking elsewhere, and ended up at what was then Dixie College, when it was a junior college. And my wife, Darcy, I got to go back just a little bit. I met her while I was at CEU. She was a high school student at Carbon High School in Price. We met at a dance and dated for 8 or 9 months before my mission, and then wrote the whole time I was gone. And then we got married when I got home.
So you served an LDS mission.
Yeah.
Those are usually 2 years long.
2 years, 2 years long.
Where'd you go?
I went to Brazil, Manaus, Brazil.
Cool.
Yep. And she was around when I got home. Didn't mess around. We got married 4 months after I got home. And we started class at Dixie College the day after we got home from our honeymoon. So she's been along for the ride.
That's kind of how it was with Courtney. She waited
Really?
for me on my mission. And then she had like our wedding date set before I even got home.
dang.
And then we got married like 3 or 4 months.
That's
when I got
impressive,
home
though,
from my
that she had
mission.
the date
Yeah,
set.
so that's
Darcy
kinda
had to
cool.
kind of feel me out first and see,
Well, yeah,
you know.
what are you
like-
going to do?
So we go to Dixie for a year. And then from Dixie, after graduating with our associate's degrees, we both went to Utah State and hung up the basketball shoes. It was at that time that I decided I was going to go into dentistry. And what happened was I thought I wanted, when I was at CEU, first I got to say I was a terrible student in high school. Never cared. I was in school for 2 reasons: for girls and for sports.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's
mean,
a lot of guys. Yeah.
I was a terrible student. Didn't care about it. Didn't put time into it, and just got by with what I could. Go to CEU. I'm still in high school mode. I just do enough to get by. I don't have any clue what I want to be when I grow up.
C's get degrees, man. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think, well, when I'm on my mission, it'll come to me what I'm going to be when I grow up. You know, I have no idea right now. And so come home from my mission, I still don't know. But I had an interest in medicine. I went and shadowed our team doctor at Dixie, an orthopedic surgeon, and loved what he did. Talked to him a little bit after the procedures I watched him do. I kind of had lunch together and stuff, and we're talking, and I could just sense that it wasn't for me, because he was saying things like, yeah, I work about 70 hours a week. I'm on call all the time. I'll be out on a date with my wife and my pager will go off. This was back at pagers, you know, before cell phones.
A week.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound all that fun to me. So I had a couple of buddies that were going into dentistry, and they said, just look at it, man. It's kind of medicine, but it's a little bit more autonomous. You get to own your own business, not as much risk, not as much stress. Now I know the stress part they were lying about, but
Hold on, let's talk about that real quick. Did you know, like, I have a dark mind, so my mind just automatically goes to dark places.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about you today and having our podcast, and we don't plan a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you asked me, like, what are we going to talk about? Like, we'll just sit down and talk.
yeah.
But I was thinking about like what I knew about you, and you're a dentist, and I remember hearing that dentists had the #1 suicide rate in like across in careers. Like, if you compare all the careers, dentists have the #1 suicide rate. And so I looked that up on my way over here, and I have this list. You ready for this?
Let's hear it.
Okay, so I just Googled this, so take it for what it's worth. So what are the jobs with the highest suicide rates? And then maybe explain to us, like, the stress.
Yeah, for sure.
So medical doctors, #1.
Oh, wow.
#2, dentists. #3, police officers.
Wow.
#4, veterans. Or sorry. Veterans.
Veterinarians.
They're getting close to the end, so they're just calling it early.
Throwing in the towel.
Sorry, veterinarians. #5, financial services.
Wow.
#6, real estate agents. #7, electricians. #8, lawyers, to round out the list. There you go. Anyway, why is it so stressful?
So it's stressful for a lot of reasons. I would say the main ones are Number one, well, so orthodontics is a little different than dentistry, I have to say, in that we don't give shots. We don't really drill on the teeth. We polish teeth. We polish the glue off the teeth when we take the brackets off and stuff like that. But we're not extracting teeth, pulling teeth out of people's faces, or, doing a lot of things that dentists do that make people just hate to go to the dentist. Obviously, it's just, you don't know who wants to go to the dentist.
That's true. No one wants to see the doctors either.
Yeah. And so orthodontics is a little bit different in that regard. It's cleaner. There's no shots.
And they're kind of like, you take the braces off. They're like happy or I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
a little different. But it is, I can still speak to both dentistry and orthodontics, having been, trained as a dentist. And so first of all, you're working in a very small space, the mouth. It's very small. It's strenuous. You're hunched over all day. You're looking at small things. You're working. It's very meticulous, very detailed. You're working in millimeters and half of millimeters. You're working on people that don't want to be there. They don't. In fact, if they told you the truth,
that are like scared. I hate to go to the dentist.
Yeah. If they, your patients told you the truth, they'd probably say that they don't even like you. And so here you are, you're in this profession where you're trying to help people, you're trying to serve them, and they don't like you. They don't want to be there. And you're working in, hunched over, you got bad backs, bad necks. Then you're dealing with running a business. That's where the irony is that's what kind of attracted me to it. Was I wanted to kind of, I wanted to be in business in some way, but I also wanted to really help people, and I was interested in medicine. So that conglomeration just kind of led me to dentistry and orthodontics. But the irony is that running a business is hard, really hard, and they don't teach you about it in dental school or orthodontic school. They don't teach you how to run a business or start a business or how to manage 30 staff. And all the HR stuff that comes along with it. It's very stressful. It's very stressful. It's hard work.
It sounds terrible now.
Yeah. I'll tell you this, Mason. So I got to dental school. So kind of skipping through Utah State. Nothing super exciting happened there, but we did get our degrees at Utah State and went off to Chapel Hill to go to the University of North Carolina for dental school.
Okay. All right.
And it was in dental school that
Man, you went to North. Did you go to games?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
It was awesome, man. But it wasn't like the games at Utah State in that. I mean, nothing against Utah State. The games were amazing, but at Utah State we could just walk into the games, right? As a student. In Chapel Hill at North Carolina,
camping out.
You have to either camp out or you get a wristband with a number on it, and it's a lottery. Maybe your number gets called, maybe it doesn't. And the Duke UNC game is only at all a viable chance if you're a senior in your whatever program you're in. So it was only until my fourth year of dental school that I was able to, I drew my number for the Duke UNC game and got to go to that game.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was really cool. Great experience. But yeah, it was in dental school that I realized, because to be an orthodontist, you become a dentist first. You get your dental degree. Then you go into more specialty training to become an orthodontist. So it was in dental school while training to become a dentist that I said to Darcy, I can't do this. Like, we've come so far. But I cannot drill on teeth and pull teeth all day. I just don't want to do that. Like, I don't love it enough. And so thankfully, there are specialties to look into. I considered oral surgery for a minute. Was really fascinated by the work. But then, I had already kind of crossed that bridge of should I go into medicine when I considered being an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah. Crossed that off the list. So I didn't really want to do oral surgery because of the other reasons that we talked about earlier. The on-call, the long hours, the stress, the risk.
Yeah. So do you think part of what makes being a dentist tough is like, do a lot of them have that thought that you ran into? Like, I don't actually know if I like this, but they're kind of stuck. Like, how many years of school do you need?
10.
I just spent 10 years of school. Yeah. I'm in debt probably.
Well, that's including my ortho residency. So 8 if you're doing dentistry. But
and you're probably in debt, right? Oh, so they're probably just like, I am stuck in it. Dang, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. I mean, I've heard of it anecdotally. I've heard of it a lot. But it'd be interesting to do a survey study and like see what people think that are dentists. how happy they are with their career and stuff.
I can't believe you were in Chapel Hill, Duke, North Carolina.
Yeah, it was awesome. Big Tar Heel fan. So I look into oral surgery for a little bit. I actually do a 5-week rotation in the hospital with the oral surgery residents at UNC, and realized quickly that's not what I wanted. They literally didn't sleep. They were always on call. I said, you know what? I already talked to the orthopedic surgeon about this. I don't want to do this as I don't want this as my lifestyle. So I started looking at orthodontics and found in orthodontics, it's you still get to own your own business. You're doing something related to teeth, of course, but not with shots and drills and pulling teeth and some of the other things that I think make patients really, really not want to be there. Orthodontics is cleaner. It's funner. This is of course my opinion. Sorry, any dentists that are listening to this.
I don't think we have a lot of dentist listeners, but yeah.
But yeah, I was drawn to it, and thankfully, so I really enjoy my career and my profession as an orthodontist. But so from Chapel Hill, we moved to Richmond, Virginia, to do my orthodontic residency. So we were on the East Coast for 6 years, and then the big decision came. Like, it was easy being in school as far as, school's so hard. Dental school's so hard. But your day is mapped out for you. From 8 to 5, you're in class, taking tests, doing your thing, where you're told where to be and what to do.
Pretty cut and dry in terms of that.
It's rigorous. It's very hard. And then you go home, you have dinner with the kids, and you study for 4 or 5 more hours. Oh. It's super hard, but you kind of know the deal. Well, the big decision and this big, up to that point in our lives, our big trial was, now what? Where are we going to go? And it was a really hard thing to decide. Well, we ended up deciding, after some other options that we turned down on the East Coast in North Carolina and Virginia, we said, let's go back home. Well, home for Darcy is Price. Home for me is Farron. There's no market there for an orthodontist. So
St. George is pretty close.
St. George is pretty close.
Yeah.
And, we loved St. George when we were there at Dixie. We were only there for a year, but we loved it. We loved the weather, the proximity to Vegas. So we said, let's go to St. George. Now, not to get off on a tangent, and you just reel me in if you need to, man. But when I kind of put out feelers to St. George orthodontists to ask, hey, are you hiring? Are you selling your practice? Like, I'd like to come. What's it like there? I literally got one orthodontist that called me. Like, I didn't have a cell phone at this time. This was 2009. Cell phones were pretty new, I think, but I didn't have one. I couldn't afford one. But
I got my first. I graduated in 2009. I got my first cell phone when I was 16 or 17, and it was this old Nokia flip phone.
Yeah,
and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. I remember like the Razor flip phone.
Yeah,
that was like. And the Sidekick and the BlackBerry. I'm like getting all these. Anyway, sorry, keep going. Yeah, cell phones were just arriving. Though.
Yeah. I'm working on a patient this one day, and our receptionist at the orthodontic residency program I'm being trained at taps on my shoulder. I turn around. She says, "There's a Dr. So-and-so that wants to speak to you." And I knew from my research and having researched the demographics and everything of St. George, of wanting to go there to open up a practice or work with somebody. I knew this name. It was an orthodontist there. I was like, that's kind of weird, but okay. So I went and took the call, and he took about 10 or 15 minutes telling me that I shouldn't come. Don't come. It's really not good here. It's like, we don't make any money. It's hard. It's competitive. Fees are low. Don't come. And I don't know, if you know me, don't tell me not to do something. That's just going to light my fire. Yeah. Man. So
I'm the same way, I think.
So anyway, there was a conversation with another orthodontist who told me, in his exact words, "Oh, you want to come to St. George? Be my guest if you want to come and fight over patients." And so I got this feeling. I'm like, this is crazy, but let's do this.
Into the storm we go.
Yeah, let's do it. So it kind of amped me up, kind of got me excited, kind of motivated me. I felt like the underdog, and I thought, let's do this, Darcy. Let's do it. Let's go to St. George. People were telling us we can't make it here. We're going to prove them wrong. And it was hard. Like,
I love it. I
what
love that
happened
mindset,
in the
though.
beginning, Mace, was so first of all, no opportunities to buy a practice, no retiring doctors. By the way, this was in the recession, so I'm coming out of school with I don't mind telling you. I mean, you can look it up online. Dental school is one of the most expensive professional schools to go to. I had almost $500,000 in debt just from school.
Oh my word!
I've got not a dime to my name. It's hard for me to even try to go get
See,
a car
I don't know
loan.
about you going to St. George anymore. Like, I don't know. It sounded cool before.
So it was scary.
$500,000
Yeah,
in debt.
in student loan debt.
How would you sleep at night?
It was hard. And I remember going to the bank that were recent graduates of, I'm a doctor now. I'm thinking, oh, this is awesome. I can't get a car loan. They say, I want to see your last 2 years of work history. I say, oh, I've been in school for 10 years.
You're biking around.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. So getting a car loan was hard. But what I did something very unconventional. I said, okay, we're in the recession. I've got all the student loan debt. I'm motivated, but I also I've gotten the hint, guys, that it's tough here, right?
You are, yeah.
So I went and I started a couple of really small, what I call satellite practices. I started one in Delta, Utah, and I started one in Ely, Nevada. And I picked these places. They're 3 hours away from St. George by car. I mean, they're not close.
And you don't have a car.
I can't even get a car loan. Yeah, so it's a problem, man. But I'm thinking, okay, I'm not gonna buy an office. I'm not gonna build an office. It's crazy expensive. I'm not gonna do that right now. But I'm gonna go into general dentists' offices and sublease their office from them on days that they're not there, and drive 3 hours to do it. And I did it, and I started actually growing really fast because there was a need. It was very underserved in those two areas. It was very rural, out in the middle of nowhere. But you got to remember, I was only going there 1 to 2 days a month. So this is 1 to 2 days a month I'm working.
Well, how did you get there?
Yeah, I drove. I ended up getting a car.
You ended up getting a car. All right. Am you taking the bus?
I'm sure my wife had
you
to
one
co-sign
wheeling
on it,
there?
but yeah. So I just through my associations in the community, I started coaching my son in football and basketball and through church and things. I started meeting local people in St. George who were like, man, I wish you were here. I want to take my kids to you, but you're not here. You're in Delta and Ely. And I was like, I came home one day and I said, Darce, I'm going to try to do something here. Like, let's do the same thing. Let's go into a dentist's office to start and sublease from them. I'm not going to go buy some practice or build an office right now, but I'm getting a little bit of interest. So I found a dentist in Hurricane. For those of you who don't know, it's about a 20-minute drive from St. George. So it's
right there.
It's right there. I mean, it's for business purposes, for me at least, it was remarkable that people would even consider driving from St. George or Washington, Utah to Hurricane to get their orthodontic work done. But by hell, they did. They started driving out there. People that I knew and met, they started coming to me. And after a couple of years, and after I took a 1 to 2 day a week gig in Vegas, working for a big group practice there. So I'm in Vegas, I'm in Delta, I'm in Ely, I'm in Hurricane. I said, you know what? Let's bring our Hurricane practice to St. George. But once again, I'm not ready to jump in with 2 feet. The economy's still rough, lots of debt, all the things. And so I found a dentist in St. George that was willing to sublease to me a little bit of space when she wasn't there. And so now I'm in St. George finally. This is like 3 years after I graduate.
Dang.
And I do that for a year or so. And then it's growing little by little. It's growing. And I'm in Vegas 2 days a week and making the commute. Just hustling, man.
You're like, back to the Mexican fisherman analogy real quick. You're like the New York CEO.
Exactly.
Working his ass off.
Exactly.
Like, you need a vacation, man.
Exactly.
All right.
And then in 2014, so I graduated ortho in 2010, moved to St. George June of 2010. In 2014, October, we opened up our own St. George practice.
Oh boy, I love it.
So 4 years. It took 4 years to get my own place. I little by little, as that grew, started weaning away from Vegas. You know, it was 2 days a week, and then it went to a day a week, and then it just went less and less until finally my St. George practice was busy enough that I could walk away from Vegas.
Wow.
And I believe that was in like 2017 or 18. So that was still, a few years after I opened my doors. But things were going great, Mace. The business was doing great. We found our own little niche in the market, and things were going really well.
And then what? It sounds like something's about to happen.
Well, you've been to my house that I.
So I took that Nets on Fire job. Oh man, like probably 2 years ago now. So that would be 2021. And I don't even remember how it came to be, but I don't know if it was you or maybe it was Ben, but someone messaged me like, hey, maybe it was Ben because I think I was working out Adam. And he wanted me to do it at this house across the street from him, which I thought was really weird. I'm like, Ben, you own Nets on Fire. Like, I'm at Nets on Fire right now. Like, why don't we do the workout at Nets? I'm like, okay, I'll go to this guy's house. And I'm kind of pissed. I'm like, we have like a great gym. So I get to your house. I don't even know it's you, by the way, yet. So I get to this house, and it's massive. It's massive. And then there's like kind of looks like a separate garage, but it's huge. And they take me, your kid and Adam, they walk in there, and it is this basketball gym. And it is decked out, North Carolina. You got the logo, you got the colors. It's like, all right, I can do a workout here. It was awesome. You had it all, dude. So yeah, yeah.
So 2 years, 2.5 years it took to plan that house, the architecture,
It was a beautiful
design.
house.
Yeah. It took almost 2 years to build. We moved.
Can I ask you, like, how much was that house?
So I'll tell you.
How much did you sell?
We sold it for $4 million.
Yeah, that's that's so goodbye debt.
Yeah.
You're like, I got out of debt a long time ago, Mace.
Goodness. But no, I bring that up only because 2.5 years to design and plan it, almost 2 years to build. Business is going great. From the outside looking in, the Burkes have it all. Brandon Burke has it all. I was miserable, man. I was miserable. I hated that house. Initially it was fun and everything. It didn't take long, though, after living in that house, that I had to either text or call my own kids to find them. I couldn't find my kids. The house was too big.
It was seriously that. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
They were getting in trouble. Sorry, kids. I'm gonna reveal maybe, but they were getting in trouble because they could hide.
You didn't
easily.
even see each other in that place.
No, it was ridiculous.
Hold on, real quick. I just had a question pop in my head. So you're planning this mega $4 million house. Is part of, and I'm not saying this out is for everyone that has a big, nice house, but is part of it like, hey, like, F you guys, like, I did it, I made it, you were wrong, I was right. Is that part of it? Or
I'll tell you,
like, why are people living in these like my first question is like, what does that guy do?
Yeah.
First of all. And then my second question is like, that house is just, it's too much house, dude.
It was way too
much. Or maybe I don't have a lot of money and I'm just trying to make myself feel
you're
better.
right on. And it took, we'll get to it, but it took some things for me to learn that, unfortunately. And it's a fair question to answer. Yeah. I would say I didn't consciously say, F you guys, you told me not to come here, and I came anyway and look.
But I respect that to some degree. Honestly, I do. Like, I kind of like, a little chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, definitely had a chip on my shoulder, but it wasn't so much. What it was many, many years of me thinking, to be honest, struggling a lot financially. Being a student for so long, and then the debt to go to school and to start a business, and you kind of make this mental list of things that maybe one day I'd like to have. Well, I kind of put everything that I wanted to have in this house. I had an indoor basketball gym, which, by the way, I'm so grateful that you and some other guys like you came and used it, because it didn't get used.
Well, and
it did not get used.
dude, and it wasn't just an indoor. It was custom decked out. You had a loft above it. It wasn't just like it was nice, dude.
It was cool. It was really cool.
You like miss it? You're like, it was cool.
I wish I did, but it just didn't get used that much, honestly. The truth is, it didn't get
So
used.
why were you so miserable? Hold on. Sorry.
No, you're good.
There's a quote I love that says, "It's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think."
Yeah.
So you finally get on top of the mountain. You did it. Were you kind of like, this isn't as good as I thought it'd be?
Exactly. That's part of it, man. The truth is, I'm a very motivated, driven person, but unfortunately, it's taken me a long time to learn that when I'm motivated towards something or driven to do something and then accomplish that thing, it's my natural tendency is to say, what's next? What's the next thing?
I'm like that too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. We got in that house, and I kid you not. Well, you've seen it. You've been in it. We had people driving up. It was up on this little hill. People driving up all the time to look at it. I was embarrassed of it. I didn't want people coming up and looking at it, knowing it was me. I didn't like the house. People don't believe me when I say that. I'm being honest. It was fun for a little while. We were in it for 2 years. I'd say 6 to 9, maybe 12 months. It was kind of fun, but then I just had bad feelings about the house.
Did you ever get is it frustrating having a lot of money and people thinking like, oh, he doesn't have any problems? Like, what does he have to complain about? He's got a nice house. Because like the king isn't always the happiest guy in the kingdom.
Yeah.
He might be the least happiest guy, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Is that ever... I've always just been curious. Is that frustrating for people who have a lot of money? Like, because you can still struggle. I mean, how many rich people like kill themselves every year? Like, yeah, there's still demons to be had if you have a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
Was that ever frustrating?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I have to qualify what you said and say I don't consider myself to have a lot of money. I feel very fortunate.
Well, it's all relative. Compared to me and Ryan, you have a lot of money.
Well, I just feel like, in general, yes, it's true that it can be said that money can solve problems, and if you have a lot of it, things should be okay. When in fact, that's not true. Now, I do want to say there's nothing wrong with having a big house. If that's what you want and can afford and like it and are happy with it, great. Brandon Burke, my story is that I put a lot into that house and I ended up not liking it.
And then you sold it.
And then we sold it. Yeah. But backing up just a little bit, it was just before moving into the house. We were in a rental. And when I say I've got 5 kids, and Darcy. And I'm just going to be real with you. I started having severe depression. And it's funny you mentioned dentists commit suicide more than anyone else. Everyone throughout my academic career and into my professional career would always bring that up and ask me, and I'd just kind of, I don't know, kind of shrug it off, laugh it off, whatever. And I got really depressed.
What does that mean? Like, you're having suicidal thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had suicidal ideation. I thought that in many ways I was failing at those things that were most important.
Which was what?
For me, after, taking a step back and really looking at things and where I wanted, it's like the parable of the Mexican fisherman. What's really important? Is it this big house? Well, I got in it, and thankfully, after a pretty relatively short period of time, found out no, that didn't make me happy. In fact, I didn't like it. but yeah, just failing at being a good father or a good husband, or putting my time, energy, and talents in the baskets that they should be in.
Hold on, I want to back up real quick because your suicidal thing, deep depression. Not a lot of people talk about that. So now we have someone that's willing to talk about it. Can you just, if you're comfortable, can you take us into that world a little bit better? Like, explain that. Like, did your wife know? Did your kids know? What was your mood like? What kind of thoughts were you having? Like, how serious did you take it? Like, were you planning the goodbye letter? Like, how are you going to do it? Can you, like, and then why don't people talk about, why don't people say that enough? Did you go to your wife and be like, hey, like, I'm not doing good?
Yeah, but it took time. In fact, I had been suffering with depression for a long time under wraps, even from her. Now,
But why? Why did people? Why?
think,
Why don't they tell anyone?
Unfortunately, and I think it's getting better slowly, but there's a stigma attached to depression, anxiety, mental health in general.
Like, this guy can't hack it.
Yeah, this guy can't hack it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to have it all, but
Isn't it
he's
crazy
mentally
though, like,
weak and he can't handle it.
You would rather kill yourself than talk about that pain. Doesn't that just blow your mind?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
No pun intended, but
Yeah, exactly.
little dark humor for you there.
So it took a while. It got to the point, I'll just say, where Darcy said, "We're getting you some help." And so I started with talk therapy. I started taking antidepressants, and it helped a lot for me. I know, some people.
I've always been scared of antidepressants.
Yeah,
getting hooked on them, or just they kind of numb you a lot.
Yeah.
What you like?
I'll just say I was in a place where it was kind of Darcy's last straw. Like, I don't want to speak for her. She has her own story, but she basically kind of forced me to go get help. And, a diagnosis was given and medication was prescribed. And at that time in my life, I needed that. So I know that there's good and bad with medication. I understand that and see both sides. But for me, at that time in my life, I needed it, and it really.
No,
helped
I'm
me.
not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just curious.
No, but I do. But you make a great point that it is. It can be numbing. It can change your personality.
Pills just scare me, man.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
It can be very difficult to get off them. Very difficult.
Yeah.
And if I'm being totally real and authentic, which I want to be, I'm in the process now. So this was about 5 years ago that this all started, and I'm almost completely off them.
So
I've weaned myself down.
That is so awesome.
Almost off.
So, like, what does that mean though? Like, you went from, I don't even know what that means. Like 2 pills a day to half a pill. Like, what does that mean? Like, measurement wise?
Yeah. So
I don't even know if that's important, but I want to know like the shift you had.
No, that's okay. So I was prescribed 3 different antidepressants.
Like, you took them at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And one of them, the main one, I guess you could say, was 375 milligrams a day. Just to give you context, I'm down to 25 milligrams a day.
Oh my, wow.
So, what I've done is, and there's a whole, we don't have the time, I wish we did, but there's a whole story to me trying to convince my doctor that I wanted to get off them, and he saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it, just keep doing it. And I said, no, I don't like them for XYZ reasons. I want to get off them. And I just kind of did it. And so I just weaned myself little by little from 375 milligrams down to now at 25. And by next week, I should be completely done.
It's
been hard.
That's
really
awesome,
hard,
dude.
Thank you.
I want to give you a hug. That's awesome,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah, it's been really hard. The withdrawal, symptoms and side effects are super difficult to deal with.
Does can your wife or kids tell? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's had his medication yet.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
So you're almost off of it. Can they still tell now?
Yeah.
Or is it a little?
I have days where I'm not so much like depressed or anxious or anything. I'm more dealing with the symptoms of of not taking the medication, if that makes sense. Because there are a whole host of symptoms that come with just not taking your meds when you've taken them for 4+ years.
Do you think? So, do you think moving out of that house helped with that?
I do. Yeah.
Explain where you live now. You just live like.
So yeah, we moved.
I mean, you're not homeless. Like you still have a good house, I'm sure.
Yeah, I moved into I'm very grateful for I call it a beautiful home. It's about 4,000 square feet.
How much was the other one?
The one that we're in now?
No, yeah. Oh. So you went from. So how much was the big one, square feet?
Oh, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but it was about 12. And if you had the 3,000 square feet of garage space.
So how much was it total?
Like 15.
15,000 square feet, and now you're in 400 square feet.
4,000.
4,000.
Yeah. And it's single level. Like all the bedrooms are close to each other. I see my kids all the time. We hang out in the living room. We're always together. Dude. And to answer your question, did it help? Yeah, it did, because it also changed the way I, just my mindset. Like, I don't care about having big, nice things anymore. I would rather, the lesson that I learned that I kind of alluded to earlier was I'd rather, rather than working extra days in the office or whatever it might take, opening another practice to pay for whatever it is.
I already caught my tuna.
Yeah,
I want to go home, have a siesta, and see the kids.
I'd rather spend that time with my kids or my wife, or doing whatever else that brings me fulfillment and enjoyment. So, I'm contracting my business a little bit, meaning I sold my Delta practice. I sold my Ely practice. Like, I don't have as many offices. I'm not running around, as crazily as I was before. So,
let's play devil's advocate a little bit with the Mexican fisherman parable. And you touched on it earlier, and I do think it's important that we clarify this. Because, I love working my ass off.
Yeah.
And I love setting goals.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, if you think the dream life is on a beach, on vacation every second of every day, you're going to lose your mind. Yeah. You're going to be miserable, I think.
I agree.
Part of reaching self-actualization, part of becoming, the happiest or the best self you can be, part of that requires work and sacrifice and failure and losing and pain. That's just part of it.
Yeah.
So, the beach and the vacations and the cabin in the woods, those are just moments in time where you can enjoy yourself. But I don't want, and you said it, there's nothing wrong with having a big house and setting financial goals and knocking them out of the park. And if someone's like, Mason, you want $1 million? I'm not saying no. I'm not no. Okay. So I do want to talk about that. I do believe in the Michael Jordan, mindset, the Kobe Bryant mindset, or kind of the mindset you had of oh, you think I can't do it? Watch me go do it. I'm not saying don't have that, but there's just a yin and a yang to everything. And I think if you get too caught up in that, you are missing out on what you actually have. And that's one thing Stoicism has taught me is listen, you can be grateful and appreciate what you have, or you can chase things you don't have.
Yeah.
But you're kind of doing the same thing. But I just wanted to touch on that point.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give off the wrong impression, hey, just you're good, just stop trying now.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying at all.
Nor do I. I mean, and I want to, if I can, bring up the point, Mason, that I believe I was dealing with some things in regards to my mental health in that way, in the way of overworking. In other words,
that was part of your identity almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the hard worker.
I'm a hard worker. I will outwork whoever I need to get where I need to get. And instead of seeking help in other avenues or, what I'm trying to say is I think that I dealt with whether or not I was depressed, that's sadness though, or anxiety or other symptoms of mental health problems by just working harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I'm depressed, so I'm gonna work harder.
Exactly.
I'm anxious, I'm gonna work harder.
Yep.
That was like your only card that you were playing.
Exactly.
Instead of like maybe gratitude and appreciation and wow, like
spending more time with my kids or
and again, like back to what I'm like, you can play that card, like the work hard card, play it, but not like you gotta have some balance.
You do. And yeah, I had gotten out of balance a little bit.
Yeah.
So
powerful, man. That's awesome, dude. We usually like to end our podcast with top 3 favorite movies.
Oh, sweet.
Before we do that, though,
yeah.
Do you have anything else you wanted to say? You're planning on saying before we get to that point, or you feel good about what we did?
Yeah, I feel good. I would just say, I guess if I can, since we touched on mental health and that issue, that complex issue of mental health. Don't be afraid to open up and talk about it. This is something that I've struggled with. It's been a really difficult thing, but I think in part because I was handling it the wrong way. You know, I think that, like we said, I was just overworking, work more. And then I was afraid to talk to Darcy about it, or I was afraid to talk to my kids about it, or I was afraid to even, go get professional help or get medication if needed. There are all these things out there that can be helpful. And it's very complex. I understand that. And I'm not even going into, there are other factors that I think played a role. Our time is limited today, but played a role in my mental health journey, and have, on the flip side of that, there are things that I do much differently now in the way I live.
I think, this is just my personal experience. Because I went through it too, like I wasn't telling anyone about how I was feeling for probably like close to the first year after the accident. And then I completely turned it around once I found how much it helped to talk about it.
Yeah.
But just from my own thoughts, I think, and this is just me, but I felt like if I went down that road and talked about it, people would think I was being a crybaby or a victim. And I didn't want to do that because I never wanted to be the victim. Like, hey, like, I'm going to get through this.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't like the mindset of woe is me, poor me type of thing. And I struggle with that. Like, if I do this, like, I don't want to come off as weak or look like a victim. And this is what I learned. Talking about your pain, that is not being a victim at all. It's not where it starts. So you talk about it. And then once you talk about it, and it could be with anyone. Like I text my sister-in-law all the time, like, I miss Courtney today. That's it. That's literally it. I just need to tell someone, right?
Yeah.
I tell that there's just something to it, dude. But you tell someone about, hey, I'm hurting really bad. And then after that, it's like, okay, are you going to be a cow or a buffalo now? Are you going to use your pain as an excuse and look for handouts, or are you going to allow you to make you stronger and put you in a position where you can help other people with your pain? That's where you turn into the cow or the buffalo, in my opinion, anyway. Mm-hmm. But talking about your pain, man, like, you need to tell people, and it's so sad that it's so difficult for people to do that, especially guys, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. And where I'm at now, Mason, is I openly talk to my kids. So
how do you start a conversation? Like, hey, kids, I'm sad.
Well, it's hard. What I did, and this isn't the right way or whatever, it just worked for me, was I took each of my kids individually out to lunch or dinner or, somewhere where we could be alone. And I just opened up to them. and I said, hey, Dad's been, I've been dealing with some things, and but I'm getting help, and I'm feeling a lot better. I have hard days still, but I've learned a lot, and I've kind of shifted my mindset, and I'm getting help, and it's okay to, like, in other words, being vulnerable. I've learned so much through this experience about just being vulnerable.
Right?
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
and then once once you're, at least for me, once I start, I can't stop. Man.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just tell you anything. Like, I just
but it's so helpful.
Yeah.
It makes you feel so good. And
I want to ask you, since you did that with your kids, have you recognized maybe a change in, like, do they open up to you more now?
sure.
Yeah. Like,
For
isn't
sure.
that cool?
Yeah,
Like,
it reciprocates.
because one thing I always want with Blue, my kid, is I want him, no matter if it's the worst thing or the best thing, I want him to be able to come up to me and talk to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Just be able to tell me the 100% truth.
Yeah.
And I think if you open up to them, that's one of the ways you get that.
For sure.
But if you're acting like Mr. Tough Guy and you have it all figured out and you don't make mistakes, they're not going to want to open up to you.
Exactly. And so it started there, and I don't know, man. I almost had that, I think, and I could be wrong, but my feeling was that was kind of the perception in the community too. I kind of touched on it earlier, but
yeah, especially for you, because you're like Burke.
Exactly.
You got the
Like,
house on the hill.
house
I didn't
on the
really
hill,
think about that.
the orthodontic practice that people have heard about. But I'm human. Like, I hurt, I cry, I have bad days. I've suffered with depression.
You're just a white, rich male. You don't have any problems ever. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, I wish. And so now I've evolved into, not only did I take that time to tell my kids and still tell them, like just yesterday or 2 days ago, maybe, one of my daughters she said, are you okay, Dad? Is everything all right? And she could sense. And I said, yeah, I'm just kind of sad today,
Yeah. And sometimes that's all.
And
that
she's
needs
like,
to be
gives me a hug, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. Yeah. But so I'm vulnerable with my family. I'm actually a very, very private person. So this is going
to change that.
Well, this is the first time that I've like openly talked about it. Because I think it's important for people to know that I'm just a regular dude.
And you're struggling,
and I have struggles. And I hurt.
We're all going through it. Yeah.
And it's important. I hope that maybe someone else can maybe get the courage to do the same, and to know that it's okay to get help and to talk and to be vulnerable and to open up. And
for sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. One around. Should we end with you? Are you a movie guy?
I love movies, dude. Not like you though. I mean,
I think
I've listened to your stuff,
just
and
fooled people. Like, I'm not anyway.
Like you can just rattle off quotes, and
I'm a movie guy. Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, I am a movie guy.
Now that I think about it.
But yeah, I like movies.
Okay, top 3.
So it's so hard, right? It's like saying what's your favorite song or what's your favorite food. But can I say it this way? My top 3 influential movies. Is that cool? Can I just?
Yeah, it's whatever you want.
Okay. So I'd say the 3 movies that have most influenced me in my life, and these may not show up on anybody's list anywhere, but Tombstone.
That's the old Western cowboy movie.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dead Poets Society.
Oh, he stands on the table. Captain Mike. Oh, Captain Mike Captain.
Yeah, and Carpe Diem. That's where I got like my life motto is Carpe Diem. I got that from that in high school.
Metallica has a song called Carpe Diem. Anyway.
Oh, really?
These are 2 good movies.
And then,
good thing Sam's not here. He would have never even watched either of those. He'd be like, those are dumb.
And then I really, really little more modern than those 2, but Cinderella Man. I love that movie.
Yeah. I think I've listed that one on my list. I love that movie.
Yeah.
When he goes back, so he loses the kids, right? And so he gets a loan or something, and then he starts winning fights, makes money, and when he goes back and gives them back the money he gave, that, because the 1090 were a big believer in we is greater than me.
Yeah.
That was like the epitome of what we like.
So
Love
cool.
that scene.
So
There's so
cool.
many. And then the scene where his daughter's hungry. And so he's like, I had a dream last night that I ate a big steak or something.
Yeah,
I'm full.
exactly.
And he gives his daughter,
Yeah.
and you're, yeah.
You got a good memory, man. You
Only
you
with
can-
movies though. Like I'm not kidding. Only with movies.
So one of my favorite scenes in that movie is, do you remember when he's at the press conference, like he's coming back, and so the press is involved.
Yeah,
out there.
yeah.
Who is this guy? Like, how did you come back? And he says, well, I know what I'm fighting for now.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what? And he says, milk.
Man, how real though is it? Like he's not joking. Like,
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah. And then his trainer, like manager guy.
Yeah.
I loved him in that movie.
Yeah,
too.
that's a good one.
Um,
Tombstone, can I just say?
yeah.
So Tombstone.
I need to watch that one. I haven't
Have you
seen
not seen it?
No, I've seen
Oh,
it. It's just been a while. Yeah.
So Tombstone for me is, so we talked about Dead Poet Society's Carpe Diem. Tombstone, I'm a very private person. I'm more like,
not anymore. You're not.
well, yeah, I know. Thanks to you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I'm more like small circles, tight though, like really close. Like I'll do anything for you,
Right.
rather than like I'm
Yeah.
you know, having a million friends. I'm more like have a few really close friends. But there's a line in there I just got to say real quick if I can. So Doc Holliday's dying. He's got tuberculosis. He's dying on his bed. He's on his deathbed, just coughing up blood. And in the meantime, Wyatt Earp, his best friend, is supposed to go and meet Johnny Ringo, who's like this gangster.
Yeah, I gotta watch this movie.
I've
again.
seen this movie way
I
too
can
many
see.
times.
I can see the mustaches they have and everything.
Yeah. So Johnny Ringo is like the best in the land with his piece, right? Like nobody wants to fight Johnny Ringo. But it's set up for Wyatt to go meet him somewhere and fight him. Well, Doc catches wind of it and goes it beats him there. And in the shadows where Johnny Ringo comes, as they're like in this forest, Johnny Ringo thinks it's Wyatt, but it's really Doc. Doc beat Wyatt there, and because he knew Wyatt couldn't beat him.
Such a good movie.
He couldn't beat him,
Yeah.
and he was his best friend.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, I don't know who the guy was, but says to Doc, what are you doing, man? You know, I'm paraphrasing here, right? But he says basically, you're dying. Like, what? Why are you doing this? And he says, this is so corny of me, I'm getting emotional, but he says, Wyatt Earp is my friend. And the guy goes, whoa, hell, I got lots of friends. Doc says, I don't.
Oh,
I
man.
love that line.
I
dude.
love that. Yeah.
I was like, so I saw that movie in high school or junior high school and just love it.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
I don't know if this Western movie's as good as Tombstone, but have you ever seen 3:10 to Yuma with Russell Crowe?
Oh, yeah.
I like that one.
That's
too.
a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The end when that song comes on. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Brandon, you're the man. Life's 10%. What happens to you? 90%. What you're gonna do about it?